What is going on, Trash Talkers? We are back with another episode for you. In today's video, we're going to give you our season preview for the Minnesota Vikings. All that and much more coming your way right now! Alright, before we get into today's video, be sure to hit that subscribe button and like the video as it will help us out tremendously. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's video. Alright, Nick, with the 2022 NFL season fast approaching, training camps right around the corner, we have yet another season preview to get to. Today we're going to be talking about the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings have vastly changed their roster from what it was just a season ago. Taking a look at some of the guys that they brought in, you obviously have to start with Za'Darius Smith, not only getting stronger on the outside on this defense, but weakening your key division rival in the Green Bay Packers, swindling him away, if you will, from the Packers and getting him on your side. We also saw players like Jesse Davis and Jordan Hicks coming over. Jesse Davis improving the right side of this offensive line. Jordan Hicks, the longtime linebacker for the Eagles and the Cardinals, now coming over and being the focal point of the middle of this defense. And when you take a look at their draft, obviously Lewis Cine and Andrew Booth being key contributors in the back end of this defense, the Vikings clearly had an idea going into this year. It was going to be improve that defense. We know what Kirk Cousins and this offense can do. Let's get the defense right and we'll be able to compete from there. When you take a look at some of the players, though, we saw some of the old heads go out. We saw people like Anthony Barr and Sheldon Richardson who still remain unrestricted free agents. We also saw players like Everson Griffin who are not coming back with this team. We saw some of these key players like Nick Vigil now gone to the Arizona Cardinals. So when it's all said and done, the Minnesota Vikings felt like they needed to vastly improve on the defensive side of the ball, out with the old, in with the new. And with all of that being said, Nick, why don't you take a look at their first 6 weeks of their season, and why don't you give us our season preview with the record predictions for the first 6 weeks?
Well, through the first 6 weeks of the season, we had the Vikings going 4-2 to start the year, getting a big victory in week 1 against the Green Bay Packers, where Za'Darius Smith can get his revenge. But then going into week 2, they get to face off against the Philadelphia Eagles, who, just like the Vikings, have improved their team vastly through the offseason, through the draft, and the Eagles are going to be a very tough team to take on. I believe that with A.J. Brown, now with Devonta Smith to pair with that rush attack, it's going to be a little too much for this Vikings defense that is improved so much to handle them so early on, and I believe that the Eagles will be able to get the better of them in week 2. And then their other loss in week 4 up against the New Orleans Saints, another team that, as of recently, has made some big improvements. Tyrann Mathieu and Jarvis Landry going to be two very tough players to go up against. Now you have to include Jameis Winston, who's returning in his second season, with Dennis Allen as the first-year head coach taking over this team. I believe that the New Orleans Saints will have enough to get past the Vikings. But going 4-2 to start the season, very strong start, very different from what we saw last year. And now ushering in this new regime with Kevin O'Connell is proving to be very different from what it was the last few years.
Yeah, the first 6 weeks of this season are definitely going to be trials and tribulations for this team. Obviously, a massive victory in week 1, as you talked about, Nick, and then losing to some key players later on. But when you take a look at the next 6 weeks, obviously week 7, they have a bye, so they're going to get right. Well, in week 8, they face off against the Arizona Cardinals, who will have DeAndre Hopkins following his 6-game suspension. This is a team that is out for blood. They know they can compete in their division. Every win is going to count for the Cardinals, and they are going to make it count against the Minnesota Vikings. Then in weeks 9 and 11, we see massive victories against the Commanders and the Cowboys, just proving their dominance over the NFC East yet again. And in week 10, we see a loss to the Buffalo Bills. Again, one of those teams that is just absolutely phenomenal, one of the best teams in the sport of football, and they will be able to take care of the Minnesota Vikings pretty handily. The Vikings still have some pieces that they have to get right before they can truly compete for a Super Bowl. The Buffalo Bills are at that point right now, and that is what is going to separate them. In week 12, we see a hotly contested game between the New England Patriots and the Minnesota Vikings. The Patriots are just one of those teams who can wrap themselves around your best player and take them out of the game. I believe that would be Justin Jefferson, so it's going to be on Kirk Cousins to figure out how to get Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook the ball to beat this Patriots team. I don't see that happening without Justin Jefferson, and this will be yet another loss to the New England Patriots.
And then looking at the last 6 games of the season, we see the Minnesota Vikings absolutely turn it on, going on a 4-game win streak against the Jets, Lions, Colts, and Giants, then losing in Week 17 against the Green Bay Packers. I honestly don't believe that the Vikings are strong enough to sweep them throughout the season, and if they're going to lose one, it's going to be at Lambeau Field. And then in Week 18, they come right back and finish it off with a victory to end 11-6 on the season, better than the Green Bay Packers, to lock up the NFC North for the season.
Absolutely. The Minnesota Vikings made vast improvements, as we talked about, with their roster at the beginning of the video. And then taking a look at their schedule, they have some really tough opponents, and obviously losing to teams like the Eagles, the Saints, the Bills, the Patriots, and the Packers in Week 17. Those are going to be the tests. Those are going to be the teams that put them to the brink. And if they can even lose those games but figure out how to overcome them week over week, improve, get better, I believe that they will be tried and ready to go for the postseason. And as you said, Nick, leading the NFC North division when it's all said and done will put them in position to host a playoff game. So you guys have to stick around and check out what it's going to look like come the playoff time. But be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. We go live every single day. That'll be all. Peace and love.